Give it up for, I believe, the most followed young lady in drag racing. I really believe that's the case. Alex Taylor, what's going on?
Hey, how are you?
Well, you're driving down the road, I think, right?
Well, I stopped. I pulled over. I'm in a parking lot right now, but yeah, I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Alex. You're actually my co-host on Burnout, our short-lived, unfortunately
I
season-long
know.
show on Speed
Now you've
TV
got
and
me.
Speed
Major
Videos.
downgrade, dude.
Yeah, a
Major
little bit of a
downgrade.
downgrade.
Sorry
Sorry,
about that,
Mike.
guys.
Yeah, it's
I heard you
we need
talk
to
a lot.
weave you into this deal, Alex, and have you on here more frequently. I was stunned. You were really fresh to your like being on TV days whenever you joined the Burnout show. And I remember telling James Lawrence and like everybody involved on the back end of that deal, like Alex is a superstar. Like we need to shine a light on her. She's great in this role. So, and you have really embraced it, Alex. I mean, I was just like trying to find your email address the other day because you took 2 hours to respond to my text. And I was digging around on the internet and I'm like, this chick's got 150,000 followers on Instagram. She got this huge following on Facebook. She got a huge following on YouTube. You're like on your way to an appearance, right?
I'm trying to do something. So I don't know what exactly the end goal is yet, but definitely after we did the show with you guys, that was you and Mike were a lot to compare to. That was a lot of, you guys had a lot of words and I was a lot less words compared to your amount of words, but that was definitely thrown into the fire. But there's a lot changed since even last year at that time.
You do a great job. I mean, we talk a little bit. I mean, I want to talk about, and I have all these questions written down, but I'm going to basically go off the rails like I always do. What is, for someone like you, one of the questions we've been asking a lot of racers in the last several weeks, I think about people like Dallas Glenn, NHRA Pro Stock Rookie of the Year contender. We go to Dallas Glenn and we ask him a question like, hey man, what's next? Is there a level beyond this that you want to get to, or what's important to you? And he basically told us like, man, pro stock's where I want to be. This is what I set out to accomplish, and this is end of the road. Kind of sounds negative, but this is the final destination for someone like Dallas Glenn. We heard a little bit of that as well from Kyle Koretsky a couple of weeks ago. I'm curious, with as big of a following as these drag and drive events have, Drag Week, Rocky Mountain Race Week, and there's a host of others. Do you have aspirations beyond this, Alex, or are you? Is this where you want to be?
I am nowhere close to where I want to be. To know exactly where that end goal is yet, I don't have that answer. But I was actually just talking to my friend Ryan White from Holly yesterday as we get ready to prepare for next season. He's like, what is your ultimate goal? I was like, I don't have that answer because I have got to really focus on being a quote unquote driver more this year. And I say that in that term because previously I've had my Camaro and it was just me and my mom. And so I was doing everything from tuning to the maintenance to just getting it through the week, and driving actually came at the very end of that list. And I hated that, knew I needed to working on those skills. And with the 55, it's been totally different. Like my dad and I are teammates now. And so he handles a lot of the mechanic side, and it's allowed me to focus a lot on tuning, in conjunction with Ryan, as well as actually focusing on driving. And so that's a role that I'm really, really enjoying. And I have a long ways to go with it. And I don't know where my ultimate goal as far as driving is, but just as far as in the industry in general, I feel like I'm just getting started and working on developing, a path on that route. But I don't know the end goal yet. And I don't want to get hung up on one thing just specifically. I've always said, I'm like, I just love this industry. I love the people in it. I just love it as a whole. And so be it with camera work, driving, part of a team, any of those aspects, I just know this is where I want to be. And so finding my place and role in that is something I'm developing as I go along with it.
Whenever you this past week, you clicked off like a slew of career bests, right? I mean, I think headed into this week, like 7-second runs were like on the bulletin board. Like that's something that we want to accomplish. Right.
Yeah.
And now you're knocking them off left and right. What was that? Like, that was a really rapid, I don't even know that escalation is really the word. It is meant to like an evolution. You went from kind of green, a green, fast, door slammer driver to someone who's doing this one day after the next and then drive into the car to the next track. I mean, what's more important to you personally right now, like with looking at, hindsight, the lens of this accomplishment? Was it winning Rocky Mountain Race Week, or was it all those personal bests one day after another?
I think it was that developed, like what would be the goal developed, or, the hindsight look back is it would have changed beginning to end. So right before we finished the car in June, but I didn't even get to touch it for, I don't know, months after, because we went and did a new project with Dodge, working with the Challenger, Dodge and Motor Trend. So anyway, so we didn't get to touch the 55. So I didn't actually get to drive the 55 again until the week before we left for drag week. And we went to a test session in Memphis, and the car was brand new. I had no, real experience with what the car felt like. I had never actually driven a big tire car either, so that was also totally new to me. There was a lot of newness. I didn't even have a baseline on what that car should feel like. And looking back now, I was like, we're going into 2 major events without a baseline. And so we went to test, and I can't tell you how many like 60-foot passes we made, and then like working up to like 330 and things like that, then getting to the 8th mile before I even felt comfortable with the car. I think the 2 passes that I made on race week 1.0 in June was, I did it out of adrenaline and didn't have time to think, kind of thing. Because when we went testing, there was just like, I was like, this car, is this right? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? Or is this when something feels like it's going wrong? Because I would come back and they'd be like, why'd you lift? I'm like, because it felt like it was going to the wall. They're like, that's normal. I was like, that doesn't feel normal. And so anyways, what became like a big accomplishment was getting more and more comfortable with the car. We made adjustments before race week 2.0 or drag week, I guess. We put a wing on the car, totally calmed it down. It was a lot, but it's a handful. So for me, like, I think my biggest personal accomplishment is the progression that I felt with the car. Like, I legitimately felt my driving skills progress over that period. And so the times that we ran and the win was a result of that. And that's, so I think it's the driving skill, like feeling that change over those 2 weeks. And then the times were sweet. Like when we went into testing, I was like, I have to run a 7 before this is all said and done, So I was like ecstatic to break into 7s. And I broke into it with a 775, my first like real quarter mile pass right before we ended testing. It was crazy that after that, like anything slower, I was like, man, this stinks. Like yesterday I was excited about a 7, and today I want to see like a 760 something, 750 something. So there was a lot of quick progression, and
your
the
drag
times
racer
were
is
awesome.
showing.
But
Yeah, your drag racer is showing.
Yeah. And so, I think it was just seeing myself progress. Like that's the part that was really special to me.
Whenever you ran your orange Camaro, Alex, and I guess I should probably know this, but I'm going to give Nate and Josh a hard time for not telling me. You ran that car like on a 275 radial or something?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know that everybody totally recognizes how different it is driving a car that's on one of those super stiff sidewall drag radials versus a slick tire, a big slick tire with 5 pounds of air in the tires or whatever. Can you tell us about like the first time you think you felt that thing sashay a little bit?
Huge difference. So that happened during testing, and like I said, first couple passes I lifted even at the 330, like it felt to me like it didn't feel like it was going straight. And I'd come back, and we ended up adding, pulling power back and trying to adjust and get my skill set to the point that I felt comfortable with it before we turned it back up. But on my first quarter mile pass during testing, that's when I first felt it, and you can see it in the video. Like it jumped to the left on me, and you look at the in-car, everybody's like, that car was pretty straight. And I was like, no, it wasn't. Like it might have looked straight, but I was not driving straight. So we actually looked at the in-car video, and I've got one of the steering wheels, like a lot of dry racing steering wheels with stripe in the center. And you can see the in-car footage. The steering wheel is very, very far turned to the left. And that's the point where I realized it's like, this car is going to be a handful. It's totally different. Like there's a lot of driving. The car's not just going to go straight. And I like that. Like I enjoy the challenge that it's presenting. But that's when I totally that's the point that hit me when I saw that video. I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a lot. And there's some stuff we've done to like improve that a little bit, but still at that, it's still something new to me. And I've only got probably 15 passes on the car, like full quarter mile passes. And so there's still a lot to learn. I know there's a lot to learn with it.
And like, I don't know a ton about the combination, and maybe you could break that down for us. I know there's a lot of like hardcore Alex Taylor fans and hardcore like Drag Week and Rocky Mountain Race Week fans that are watching along. But I mean, this is a big power deal, right? I mean, what is the drivetrain? What's under the hood of that 55 Chevy?
It's actually probably a little bit of a smaller combination than you would expect for what we're trying to do. It's, first of all, starting with chassis, it's full tube chassis, 25, whatever, 3. It's a 650, 650 cert. Yeah, I always get those backwards, but 650 cert chassis. and we actually just built it in like 4 months. So I didn't have time to build a new motor and transmission. So I pulled the combination of Dad and I did, then we borrowed out of his Nova for the season. So it's a 509 big block Chevy. It's pretty low compression motor. It's like 8-to-1, super low compression actually
Wow.
on methanol. And so I don't know if I told you a horsepower number, it'd be like a guess, but in the ballpark of 2,500 on this event is what we were seeing. Twin Pro Mod 88 turbos with a turbo 400 and a 4-link suspension. But that's going to change this year. I'm working this off season to build a new motor for it. So the combination will change. It's a little bit small for what we're trying to do, but it got us by for the season.
Well, and if you think about some of the combinations that you see from these other cats, right? I mean, the Tom Baileys of the world, and where the bar was set by Larry Larson and Jeff Lutz, and even Dave
Yeah.
Schroeder out here with an 870 some cubic inch
Yeah.
nitrous engine. I mean, it's really spiraled out of control quickly. Tell us a little bit about just the experience of. I'm a second generation racer, a third generation car guy, technically. What's this been like doing it with your dad, man? Following along on social media and seeing all these pictures of you and your pops. I admit that, we're not like super close. I don't know you really well, but like it's a heartwarming thing to watch unfold in front of all of us. And I have to imagine that he is a proud son of a gun, because I mean, you're getting cars delivered from Dodge for you to cut into a billion pieces. I mean, this is a really incredible thing, Alex. What's it been like to do it with your dad?
Oh, it's been so much fun. It's interesting because I've been in the shop with my dad since I was just a couple weeks old. He builds cars. That's what he does. He started with street rods and, more that side. And over the past probably 5, 6, 7 years has progressed towards a more performance oriented builds. So anyways, I've been in the shop with him, that entire time, and we've built stuff together before. I have my 68 Camaro, me and him built it, but I had been in college until just last May. And so my time at the shop was limited. I was there on all my free time, but it wasn't like I was there, all day, every day kind of thing. And so after I graduated college and had this time, we kind of had like a little bit of a downtime, we'd race a little, but then once we started this project, it was like totally different. Like it totally changed like our dynamic and our relationship, because not only then was it like a father-daughter, it's also like legitimately a business partner. So he handles one side of it. He's just a mastermind when it comes to building. He always has an answer, always has an idea. And then like I love the business side of it and handling like the relations side of it and doing that. And I like, the other side as well. It's just that we both have our roles that we're better at. And so we were able to do this project because we were able to take it on in that sense. And so it totally changed like how we work together and how we approach things. And that was just, it was so neat. It was the first project that me and him 100% collaborated on together from the beginning, like beginning to end. And so that made it super fun. And that's kind of given us a direction on like where we're going to go from here, as far as like we've got different projects and different ideas, and we just see a lot of potential and stuff that we want to do going forward. So it's really cool because it's somebody that I know I can trust and somebody that knows how I work, and we're so much alike. It's scary. It makes us butt heads sometimes. So, but at the same time, it's like awesome to be working with somebody that's on the same page as you.
Well, and a lot of times, man, I as a business owner myself, and I mean, I think a lot of people will attest to it. Everybody has what they're good at, right? And especially a lot of, in our industry, it feels like the racing community is full of these guys that are like super talented fabricators or super, like very good at what they do, but they don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to talk to people. They don't want to deal with companies. They don't want to set things up. They're not going to build a website. They're not going to do all those things. So it's like really kind of an interesting thing. What did you end up going to college to do, Alex?
I went for marketing, but I never had the intention of actually working for somebody else. Like my goal was always, not that I'm, opposed to it, but my goal was always, if I could do it, was to market myself and my brand. And so that's what I worked really hard to set up. I went to college on full scholarship, academic scholarship. So I, was able to graduate without debt. I had my cars paid off and everything by the time I graduated. And so when I graduated, I told myself, I was like, I give myself 1 year, like one full year where I'm just going head first. And if I can make this work, I'm going to do it. Like, this is where I want to be. And if not, like, then I'll visit like law school or something, like I'll go with that route. But I'm not, this is where I want to be. And I'm thankful for the opportunities I've had that's allowed me to just like keep going with it. But yeah, it was marketing, but everybody always thought it was for something else. And I'm like, no, it's for Alex Taylor Racing. And that's my goal with it. So.
I think it's fantastic. And I think it's a fantastic story for, like, I hope there are young people watching and listening that, it's one thing. A lot of people, I think, go to college with this notion of, hey, I'm going to use this degree that I get to go get a job. But there's a
Yeah.
completely other side to that where you can go gain this experience and gain this knowledge and then put it to use for yourself. I mean, you don't hear that from a lot of young people in this day and age. I mean, I think kind of the college song is dance, like, hey, you come here and we're going to you're going to get this degree and we're going to help you get a job at XYZ corporation, and you're going to have a 401k and all this stuff. And I
Yep.
just think it's cool because there is a belief system that, like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you don't need college, right? Or you kind of
Mhm.
got to pick one. But I think it's wise because that college experience, like for me, I flunked out of college in 2 weeks, so I'm not a good example of it. But I mean, I do think it's good for people to be reminded that you can go to college and you can do that, take that traditional path, but put that experience and education to use for yourself. When you look at this whole thing, Alex, how far it's come, we talked earlier in our conversation about this following that you've amassed on social media. You've in my opinion, you're a certifiable drag racing car culture influencer. I mean, it's a really cool thing to have seen happen rather quickly. What do you make of these relationships that you have participating in shows on Motor Trend, right?
Mhm.
This project with Dodge and Mopar where they gave you a car to cut into pieces and then you raced it. I mean, what do you make? You obviously have a relationship with Holly, an
Mhm.
iconic legacy brand in our industry. I mean, are you pinching yourself, or how are you handling all of this?
Oh man, it's wild. So it's a lot of people see the progression as like a very short, very short timeline, and relatively it is. But I look back, and when I was 16, I started like with drag week, and me and my parents built my first car then. And so going from then to now, I have to like stop every once in a while and tell myself like slow down, because I am so like type A personality. Like I have to be doing something constantly. Like downtime scares me to death. And so I constantly think I'm not doing enough. But I have to check myself every, couple months, or at least every couple months, and be like, look at where you were a couple months ago, look at the following last year to this year, or look at these relationships and, these friends here, these companies here that you've grown, some kind of connection to. Like I have to put myself in a reality check, and it's not because I'm not grateful for that. It's just because like I get so caught up in progressing, trying to continue progressing forward, that I sometimes forget to look back at, how far it's changed. I'm thankful for a lot of the people that I've worked with. They've become friends. A lot of these people are not just a business partner, so I also have to remind myself like, okay, I do get to work with them, but they're not just friends. Like they are, a business partner that's trusting me to represent their name. And so that's just something that's really neat. And it's really interesting, especially this year, how one connection has led to another. Like I had the chance to go shoot Hoopty World Championship with Motor Trend. And then that connection turned into the connection where I got to cut up a brand new Challenger in partnership with Motor Trend and Dodge. And so it's just, that's just an example of one thing that snowballs to the other. But it's like, even that connection with Motor Trend started probably because I was doing drag week at 16 and continued to do it, over that course of years. So it's fun to see how the connections connect together, basically. But I don't know. It's
I mean,
fun.
I'll tell you from even this perspective, man, our vantage point here at Drag Illustrated and the show, it's like, it's been great to see this steady climb that you've had. And it's been fun because we take pride in, like, we kind of put our stamp of approval on certain people, our Drag Illustrated 30 under 30, our Women of Power. You've been a part of both of those deals, both those functions that we're very proud of. And
Yeah.
when we see you continuing to climb, we all feel a little bit of a proud papa moment. Do you have any, like, before I let you go, a couple of things is, first and foremost, just looking forward at the rest of 2021 with these big drag and drive events kind of behind you. Is there anything on the horizon for you remaining in 2021? What's up your sleeve? And then I wanted to kind of just, this is a totally separate question, but I'm willing to let you go on it a little bit. Do you have any advice? I mean, we have a lot of young people that watch this show. It seems like one of the most common questions I get is, how do I get a sponsor, or how do I do this? Or I'm just curious, like, what's your take on that? And do you have any advice for
Yeah.
young folks that are trying to make it?
Yeah. So I got a big take on that. for your 2021 question, I don't have any events personally planned as far as racing goes, but this week I get to learn to drift from Chelsea tomorrow with Holly at Ford Fest. And so that's really exciting. So super excited about that because I've never done anything like that. I just love to take on any, like that's so far from drag racing, but I love to take on any form of motorsports that I can just to have some experience there. So that's exciting. But then the next week, I'll also be going with Iski to No Prep Kings in Tulsa. So those two are on the schedule, and those two literally just popped up last week. So I don't know what the rest of 2021 will hold. There's something new every day, but excited for those two events. And then, of course, we'll have the 55 at SEMA. As long as everything's good to go there. And then we'll be at PRI as well. So that's kind of the schedule for this year. But to second question, for anybody that's wanting to get involved, just a quick, try to make it quick, but quick story on that is that question I do see comes up a lot. Like, how do you be a quote unquote influencer? And that's such a term that I love and hate at the same time, but how do you do that? And how do you get a sponsor? And my first thing is just always tell people, like, start somewhere, but don't, like, for me, I'm a bad influencer because I love this industry more so than I do loving creating content. It's just that I do that because it allows me to continue drag racing and building and doing those projects that are passion projects. And I get to share that with others. So like what I love doing is inspiring other people just to start, just to go somewhere, like pick up something. If you love to make videos, we love to take pictures of cars at the drag strip, start there. If you want to drive, just start anywhere. Take your car to your local test and tune and start. You got to figure out what you love, and that's going to change as like you continue to, move along with what you're doing. So you don't start with that's so backwards, but I always say, like, don't start with a dead set end goal in mind. Like, have a dream and have a big picture, but like be willing to pivot along the way and like pick up different opportunities here and there. And like the other thing is like that sponsor question, like how do I get a sponsor? It's like that's the wrong thing to ask. I feel like it's always like, what can I provide? Like, why am I valuable to someone else versus somebody that's sitting beside me? And so that's something that people taught me early on, was like, you got to show somebody why what you have is different from the other person. And so I think it's like, before you start going to these companies and like asking for things, you have to have something to give back to them. Like, it is a business and they are a business. And so that's what I always try to remind people, like, find what you love and find why you love doing it and how you want to do it, and then go from there, like work forward with that. So it's always kind of a backwards answer because everybody's like, have a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Like, tomorrow could change, So
no, I think those are some sage advice from a very young lady, Alex. You're wise beyond your years. And that's, that's the conversation we have with racers all the time, is it's like, well, do you really want to sponsor? Like, do you understand what comes along with this? Because it's not all easy. It's not just opening boxes, right, and cashing checks. It's a much different thing. And before I let you go, last thing, what has it been like thrusting yourself into the public light like this? Because that's something that I think is kind of the other shoe that drops. Our next guest, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Pat Musey, Lizzie Musey have become household names in drag racing. Pat has been for a long time, but it's a new experience to open yourself up to criticism and hearing what people have to say. And everybody has an opinion in this day and age, and everybody has a platform to share that opinion. For a young woman, and as the father of a 7-year-old daughter, I worry about sending my little girl out into the world, right? And I'm just curious, how have you handled that, and what's that experience been like?
It's been one of those things, like, I've been somewhat in public eye since I was 16, first started racing, but not to the extent I am now. And when I really started with YouTube, that's where I really saw, a different side of people. I learn about people every single day. You learn by their reactions and their comments. It is a little scary at first. And I do have days still where I'll get a comment and I'm like, that person was really mean and that really hurt my feelings. And I'm not a sensitive person. I'm really not. But sometimes, like, that comment hits you just right, where it's like you start to question yourself. But that goes back to the checking reality. And it's like, okay, I have 10 people over here that love what I just did and posted. And then I've got one person who thinks I should have posted it 10 minutes sooner. Like, that happens all the time. People are like, you just, that's such a simple thing. But they're like, you just fell off the face of the earth. earth and left us hanging. And it's like, well, I've got a life, like I got a lot to do, so you have people that have, problems with everything. Nothing you do, everything you do, somebody will have a problem with. And so I just try to remind myself that they're probably having a bad day and that I've got to look at it in a different light. And it really doesn't matter. It's easy for them to type that comment. But it is hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's something that I have to work on constantly. And sometimes I just turn my comments off, and I feel bad because like I don't answer the good ones sometimes, but it's because I don't want to see the negative. Like some days I'm just like, I can't handle it right now. Gotta mute it and keep going and keep working towards goals and just accept it and keep rolling with it.
Well, Alex, I got to tell you, all of us here at Drag Illustrated in the show, we couldn't be more proud of you. We couldn't be happier for you. It's a magic thing when there's a marrying of intangible skills like that you have, your personality and charisma and your ability to speak, but you're also able to deliver the goods on the racetrack. So congratulations. We're excited to see what happens next. I hope our paths cross sometime in 2021, if not at SEMA or PRI, maybe at one of these drag races coming up. Send our best to your family. Congratulations again, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was good
Thanks,
talking.
Alex. Drive safe.
Bye.